the military power and the aggression, take away kind of the aggressive side of police, the kind of officers with guns, give them less power and give more power to social workers, give more power to people who know how to deal with situations like this, maybe a little bit better. Or if you have a guy who's mentally ill, which police often screw up, just give them a better kind of chance with defunding the police. Like, what's your read on the whole defunding the police conversation in general, James, before we get further into this?
Yeah. So I've heard very little of the defunding of the police, but I have heard a good amount to make a pretty good understanding of it. So in certain circumstances, defunding the police could be good. And for example, when we look in New York City, they had kept the police budget the same while cutting health and housing and homeless services and other social services and many others. I mean, even transportation, which is the dreaded MTA, as many of us know.
Yes.
And in a circumstance like that, I'd be fine with taking some money away from the police so that we can have, well, services that are kind of needed. I'm not saying police aren't needed. I think police are very much needed. And the demilitarization of police in the sense of taking away, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like taking away tear gas and things like
tear gas and like limiting the amount, like the way their gun is like on them? Maybe it's like in a car, not on their holster at all times. Like, so like they can only take it out. They're coming to a
holster though, because then they're going to be open targets for people who can just like.
Well, yeah, if they're coming into a violent situation, then you get out into a.
Let's say so he's just walking down the street and like I leave my house, or not myself, but say someone leaves their house.
That's
and
very.
Sees a cop.
That's very unlikely. That's very. I think that's very unlikely. And I
think that it's very far fetched to really have the idea that they could just have it in the car. Because
I mean, it's very
the car
easy
is
to
5 blocks away. The cop's not always in their car. I mean,
yeah, that's kind of the point. But
nowadays, but
if you're coming in for a kind of like violent situation, if you're coming in with like a direct,
well, how do you know? Maybe you're driving and you see a violent situation.
Yeah, but then you take your gun out of the car.
For example.
Well, then I guess you'd have to go. You have to go back. Yeah, well then I guess you could. If you're in bike patrol, I guess you put the gun in the bike, but back. Like you don't.
Yeah, but you have to go back. Say someone dies because you go back.
But again, I think that's kind of falling into the same kind of trap of the fact that like painting the situation in most American communities as a war zone where there's violent conflicts breaking out in the street every 10 seconds.
That's not how I'm painting. I'm painting it more as for if they're public safety officers, they with any day of the week and without a doubt deserve to have a gun on them, and not deserve necessarily should.
But what about a taser though? Like you can solve if two people are in a fist fight on the street, you can solve that with a taser. Yeah. You can solve that with backup, which they seem to be able to call very well.
But with a taser, that
you don't need a weapon for that. Yeah, again, I'm not necessarily saying
taser's a weapon.
You shouldn't have it. Yeah, what I'm saying is you shouldn't have a taser. You shouldn't really necessarily use a taser in that kind of situation either. That may be even a little much, but. Like a stun gun, I don't know how much that is to a taser, but if someone's coming at you, for example, say with a sword or something, like a kind of weapon, like a non-lethal weapon, like pretty much not a gun, not a firearm, I think that's kind of a time where you would use your taser, but it is not.
No, if someone's coming with a sword, I'd much rather just use a gun.
No, but
because a sword can kill you, though.
Yeah, but it's you have to actually.
I mean, if it's like Halloween, or if someone's joking around, or if this guy's known in the community to be kind of crazy and has a sword, then I'm fine with it. But like, if someone's like charging at me with a sword,
yeah, but if you're on your own, like you could stop a guy charging you with a sword with a taser, though, pretty easily, I think.
There's like a delay though when the taser actually will go in. Like they can like move their arm and like hit down with the sword still and be able to hit you. The taser doesn't like kick in like the second it's on you. It takes like a 3 to 5 second.
I don't know. If you got 3 guys firing at one guy with like their tasers, I think that should be able to stop them.
Yeah, but not every cop is always with 3. Right?
That's true. But like again, it's a very much a situation by situation basis. But like, what do you see defunding the police to mean more?
I think that only in certain circumstances that should be of an option. And the circumstance that I brought up earlier is during this time when the government is not bringing in a lot of money and is giving a lot more money out, and they need to defund certain departments. I think that the police should, without a doubt, have a slight defunding. And the reason why I say that is because if everyone else is getting defunding, including, by the way, the fire department,
Yes,
everyone's like, oh, it's just
big time.
it's the fire department and the police aren't. No, the fire department and also, by the way, EMS are as well. A lot of times EMS are actually usually the first to go because EMS are usually with private contracts nowadays with hospitals. Which is something that I'm fine with because private contracts, first of all, they save money for the government, but also a lot more reliable because the hospital, there's no sort of, oh, which hospital we're going to go to. No, if you're in this area, you're going to go to this hospital. I'm talking more about the city, but and in more kind of urban areas, like a lot of big cities do this type of thing because it makes it easier for them to just get you to a hospital like quick without having to be like, oh, which hospital are we going to be going to? Like figuring it out. It's not like they're not calling people, but they're going to be.
Yeah, but I think
you
like
where you feel comfortable.
if the government doesn't spend money on ambulances, though, like what else is it going to spend money on? Like you got to like in terms of social services, like you don't see
welfare right now, and this thing with the unemployment benefits that are going out right now.
But it's not really going to that.
That's a lot of money.
Into that, most of the money though is not going to your average person. It's not going to the working American today.
In certain states, it is going into the jackpot, though, that is being used as the unemployment fund.
But the federal relief bills, like especially the CARES Act,
not in the federal. Not in the federal government. No, they're actually
talking more in the states,
spending more money. But the states, I'm talking more about the states that are cutting budgets right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you direct that towards Medicare, but like you can't like cut these type of programs like in such a big way. And then not give people something else, like at least give people something else in return if you're going to do something as drastic as that. I think it's very, very important.
Oh no, I'm not saying to cut the ambulance. I'm just saying what is already like with the ambulance for years now. I'm just giving like saying like that. People are against defunding the police, yet they don't realize that the firefighter and the EMS. Well, EMS was already basically massively defunded for years because now it's a lot of private companies, but especially the firefighter firefighting, excuse me, already got a lot of cuts in many states, but the police haven't really had any cuts in many of the states.
Yeah, and it is. I definitely kind of see where you're coming from on that, but what I would also talk to is a little bit more about this. What people are saying about this. Nobody is going to defund the police, but we can restructure police forces, says Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, the number 3 House Democrat. And then I think that in the kind of the same way that we saw Camden doing it, Camden, New Jersey, was able to restructure their police force in a very, very effective way. I think if we follow that kind of nature, I think you could get a lot of stuff done, a lot of kind of change. I think a lot of people would be more down to do that. I don't think abolishing the police is the right way to go. I don't think, and I think that like that can be put off as a radical left-wing position, and I think a lot of people, like mainstream centrist Democrats, can slander it, but I think it's relatively, I think it's something that just makes a lot of sense.
What happened in Camden, I don't think that's really make that much sense at all because they had to bring the state troopers in, which then New Jersey had to increase the state trooper budget by quite a lot in order to do that. Camden has
just for Camden, though?
Excuse me, like, quote unquote. Well, yeah, just for.
But
Camden,
if you look at the way, if you look at their crime stats, they're definitely a lot better. Like the way the city has been, like pretty much what residents say they're very satisfied with it. Like by most accounts of it, like the program has been relatively successful, I would say.
Yeah, by stats, it's been relatively successful, but my monetary relief, it has not been successful whatsoever. And crime stat, I'd question because there are certain areas of Camden where the crime has actually gone up. And that's the reason why Chris Christie and even the now Democrat governor Murphy, I forgot his first name,
Phil.
Murphy, had to continue. Yeah, Phil. Yeah, there you go. Phil Murphy had to continue the contract with Camden and the state troopers because, first off, Murphy is a guy who I would, without a doubt, I don't really agree with him in politics. He's more left than I am, and the fact that he had to say, "Oh, we have to keep the troopers here." we have to continue that contract, which was, by the way, a 3-year contract. It wasn't anything like, 40 years. No, it was only 3 years because Chris Christie was leaving. And it went into the first year of Murphy's term, which actually just started, I think, no, 2018. Yeah, he came in office in 2018 because his election was 2017. But he just extended that, which is actually going to be up for extension pretty soon as well. If he feels as if he needs it, he's probably going to do it again. So, I mean, I'd question, it's gone down. But they have police there. They have the state troopers there.
They definitely do. They have restructured. I think they have restructured their police. And I think it's resulted to better kind of safety and better community relations with police. If they do have to have the state troopers there, but...
Well,
there is like a huge drop in police brutality. There's a huge drop in like the influence that police have in the communities. I think that's a pretty good trade-off.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously they're state troopers. They're not a local police force that's there every day of the week. I mean, it's different officers.
Yeah. But if they're
you may be there Monday, Thursday, Friday, but
if they're there and they have that contract, but there also is less police impact in the community, I think that's definitely a good thing.
Well, the crime rate is then. How about this? Then what we should see then is if Phil Murphy reenacts that reenacts that contract with them in 2 years from next year with them. If he doesn't, then we should see what happens with the crime rate, because my hypothesis in regards to why Camden's crime rate is so down is because of the fact they have the state troopers there. Well, yes, they did restructure their police force and they basically got rid of it. They literally had to bring the state troopers in, and that is really where I find is the major reason as to why the crime rate went down so much, because I really can't see any other reason as to what the state troopers would be doing, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't look at state troopers and see them as like social workers or community members. I see them more as just cops who are there to
but I think the state troopers, you can't say
what they tell them to do.
The state troopers are not the only people there, though. There is a police department just transformed or reduced
Well, the police department's like watered down because of what occurred there with.
Yeah, and there's different focuses in the police department and the way they structure their budget.
Yeah, but then I want you to explain to me then how you think that their crime rate went down with the troopers there, because the troopers do regular policing. They're not doing like social work. They're not trained by Camden to do what their whole philosophy is. They're trained in the police academy that is in Trenton, and they do what the state tells them to do, which I'm going to guarantee you right now is not social work whatsoever. It's regular policing with
I'm not denying that. But there's also a police department that exists there, and I mean, how much of a role do we know that the state troopers actually have in the governing? We don't know that. We also don't know how much of the fact that. But I don't know. I think we're kind of getting a little bit off, like bogged down in this. But I think the state troopers definitely have an effect. And the restructured police department definitely has an effect. And I think the restructured police department has
an effect a lot on
the
social
positive
standing in regards to like how they are with the police, and also in regards to with the community. I'm not saying that the restructured police are like disastrous, they didn't get out.
Yeah.
I just question the hypothesis on your end that everything's better because of the fact that they're there, when I don't think that that's true. Because if everything was better because of them, then the state troopers wouldn't have been in need to go there in the first place. As I mentioned before, Murphy would decide to extend the contract for a valid reason. I mean, this guy is a progressive. He was endorsed by Warren, not Bernie, by Warren in his run. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's going to get endorsed by Bernie again, because he's trying to get a Medicare for All system in place in New Jersey. So I wouldn't really be shocked in regards to, like, not for everyone, but in the sense of Medicare for the people who already are on the state healthcare system, like more kind of cheaper, more free, like that progressive healthcare system, which is what he was kind of
like a public option.
Not really. I mean, what they have right now is a public option, because Chris Christie destroyed their healthcare system there when he was there. He made it basically a public option, but not really. It was just one option. It's with a private insurance company, United Healthcare. And what he's trying to do is try to make it government, like
take back some of the
subsidized. We'll take it back at all. Take it all back. So. Like, he's not like a centrist moderate. Like, he's
hopefully he's able to kind of solidify it so it's not like immediately under attack when a Republican gets back in there. But anyway, And of course, I do love in New York we have Andrew Cuomo out there being like passing some kind of like relatively basic police reform.
He was at LaGuardia.
You guys don't need to protest. It's okay.
He was at LaGuardia actually the other day while he was doing his coronavirus briefing. Before he starts, like, oh, look at how beautiful this building is. It's so nice.
Yeah. He says, yeah.
As like 40,000 New Yorkers die from coronavirus. Oh, look at how beautiful this building
is. And he's also done such a bad job too. Like it's been really.
Yeah, he reads off a smartboard, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at how great this guy is."
Yeah,
like, are you kidding?
I think people are starting to realize that because like there is only so many times you could be like, "Oh, it's a city," as an excuse